What up, what up? Guys, cool little thing for the channel. New sponsor, Genesee Nutrition. Actually, a guy I met at XRP Vegas, member of the XRP community, former basketball player, and kind of starting up his own content, his own interviews, and just brought some over, let me try them, and they were outstanding, man. I'm normally not a big fan of like protein bars and stuff like this, but these things were addicting, and wanted to help out a member of the community, so make sure to check those out. Will's a really, really cool guy, and I'm sure I'll be sharing more kind of information about that, but want to get the CPI numbers going because that's about to drop, and I'm scrambling to get the live stream ready for it. But we'll get there in 2 seconds here. Looks like we'll be good for those CPI numbers to drop. All right, cool. Got that queued up. As soon as those go live, I'll switch it over. Now I just need to do some last minute setup of the live stream. And we'll be good to go. Guys, thank you so much for coming in. These numbers will be pretty interesting. I'm sure I will not have them first, but we'll have CNBC queued up for as soon as they hit. XRP. All right, I think we're all good here. CNBC is ready. All right, just waiting for them to hit. Let's see, we got, yeah, guys, make sure to check out Genesee. They'll be in the comment section. Like I said, Will was a great guy. Super cool meeting him, and yeah, just got to try out some of his stuff. Really cool to help out a member of the XRP community, and yeah, now happy to have him come in and be a sponsor. It's nice to not have some like token or some financial product, just some guy trying to make people healthier and build some cool products around it. So I was a huge fan, and wanted to give him a shout out on the live so he could really get some traction going.
The futures have improved a little bit, but we're red across the board. The treasuries, the yield curve, most of the numbers that we follow are at some key levels, sort of. You see the 30-year just below 5, 10-year just above 4.5, and the 2-year just above 4.0. So we should be able to see exactly what happens from this. Rick Santelli standing by at the CME. Leisman is around, so is Santoli. Let's get the numbers, Rick.
Yes, our May read on the consumer price index on the headline number expected up 0.2, comes in on the light side, up 0.1%. That follows, at least for now, unrevised up 0.2. Up 0.1 will be the lightest since it was minus 0.1 in March of this year. If you strip out the all-important food and energy, it remains up 0.1%. That's 0.2 lighter than we were expecting, 0.1 lighter than the rear view mirror. Up 0.1 equals where we were in March of this year. To find a lower number, you're going to 0, which was January of 21. Now let's take the year-over-year perspective. Expecting year-over-year headline up 2.4, and it arrives exactly up 2.4. That is 0.1 hotter than our last look at 2.3. It equals the 2.4 in March. 2.8 was February. That's the higher number we're comping to. Finally, if we go year-over-year core ex food and energy, it's up 2.8, 0.1 lighter than we were expecting, equals where we were last month. 2.8 actually now is third consecutive month in a row. If you want a smaller number than that, you're going all the way back to March of 21 when it was up 1.6. Now, I always like to look at the indices. These indices go back quite a ways. If you look at CPI headline index, it goes back to 1913, and the number today, 321.465, might not mean anything to viewers intrinsically, but it is the highest level on this index ever, going back to 1913. That should mean something. And if we strip out the all-important food and energy, it comes in at 326.854. Once again, this number started out in 1957 on the core. It's never been higher. We see that the pre-opening equities, well, they have improved rather markedly. We now see green, and interest rates have dropped dramatically. We're hovering just a whisker under 4.5% in the 10-year. We're now at 4.44%. So definitely the cooler than expected monthly numbers, once again, are going to create that wonderful weekend armchair quarterback scenario of trying to look at the outlying months over the next 3 and 6 months and trying to discover what they may be using the current monthly estimates. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do, and inflation certainly looks like it is cooling a bit, but as the year-over-year numbers do tell us, Joe and the gang, we're still a little bit on the high side with a 2% target. I'm interested to see if anybody at CNBC today talks about the notion that the Bureau of Labor Statistics isn't doing an adequate job of polling for CPI due to freezing of hiring or maybe even cutbacks due to the current administration. My one question would be, what was their enrollment and what was their rank in staff prior to COVID? Let's see what the comparison is. Joe, back to
and why would fewer people wouldn't necessarily give you cooler numbers? It could just be a higher margin for error. So, you know, I'll tell you, Rick, the people that we've been having on, even though they think next month will be even more telling about tariffs, but a lot of them were looking for something. We just had Michelle Girard on. She's been looking at something worse every month. Once again,
Joe,
it didn't happen.
Are you hinting that those 9 Democratic senators trying to have this looked into at the Bureau of Labor Statistics have political motivations?
Rick,
are you even hinting that?
No, but Rick, 3%. People said we'll go back to 3, and it didn't. It stayed at 2.8, right? So this is definitely.
Listen, I'm very surprised. It's been well behaved. It has. It has been well behaved.
But it doesn't mean next month, you know, things can change quickly. Steve Leisman, I don't know whether you thought. We're going to get your reaction. I don't know whether you thought this would be the month where we started seeing at least some effect, or do we got to wait another month? Or does it never come? That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, I want to make a broader point here, Joe, which is this. I still think there is tariff impact to come. You can see a little bit of tariff impact in places like appliances up 0.8% 2 months in a row. Something important to me, music equipment up 0.4, photo equipment up 1.6. But that's not the broader point I want to make. I want to make this point, which is that the concern at the Federal Reserve was not just that tariff-related prices would go up. It's that it would spread more broadly to other tariff prices, and that the issue of inflation expectations, which you talked about very eloquently this morning with Richard Clarida, would be an issue for the Federal Reserve. Not only did we get a decline in inflation expectations earlier this week from the important New York Fed report, but even if I zero in on just the tariff-related increases, I look elsewhere and I do not see broader impacts on inflation from the tariffs. So yes, I expect tariffs prices to come. You cannot collect year-to-date $70 billion in tariff revenue and not have prices go up. That is going to happen. The broader concern at the Federal Reserve is that it spreads to other areas. We do not see that. I think that's an important development that could help the Fed when the time is right and they're confident to cut interest rates. I will just tell you, the most gas down 2.6%, real earnings, importantly, up 0.3%. New vehicles fell, used vehicles fell. Importantly, apparel, which is a big imported item, down 0.4%. Owner's equivalent rent, that's the housing unit, up 0.3. That's pretty good. Motor vehicle insurance up 0.7. Airlines down, interestingly enough. And the most important product of all, of course, Joe, eggs down 2.7%. I'll give it back to you.
Exactly. Big turnaround, Mike, immediately. And I did say, Mike, that the yield curve was cooperating because we knew exactly where it was before because they were all right at those, 5%, 4%. They were right at the numbers where we could tell and saw an immediate impact on yields, as Rick pointed out.
We did, and they've stayed in the sort of safe zone, I would say. They're not, crossing any tripwires that would give the equity market too much concern, at least right now. And, of course, equity index futures did also pop. I think there's no way to look at these numbers and say they're not welcome news. I mean, a downside surprise to core goods is where people were looking for potentially tariff effects and maybe.
All right, so they're just kind of repeating the same stuff now. I mean, overall, it's hard not to look at these numbers and say these numbers are very good. I think a lot of people seems like worried about the numbers. I don't think we were too worried about the numbers over here. I think we were pretty confident numbers were going to be coming in pretty good. And that's exactly what they did. I was actually expecting numbers to come in even better than they did. But the market seems happy about it, which is great. And we'll just have to sort of see where this all pans out in terms of next steps. I saw that the inflation indexes were definitely, or the prediction markets were definitely forecasting that this was going to lead to rate cuts sooner, welcoming kind of that good data. So that was really good to see. And then the other thing is obviously rates were coming down pretty substantially as well, which is a very good thing. So good data all around. Very welcome to sort of see that playing out already. And I just want to see what some of the reports coming across the finish line here are. Seeing if there's any good Twitter analysis of these numbers that just hit. So year over year, 2.4. That's the important thing. It seems like CNBC has some kind of pro-inflation narrative going on. I will say, kind of just always seems like they're looking like, oh, well, like this is why, even though the numbers were good, like this is why maybe you shouldn't believe them. But 2.4 is great. It's not the downtick below 2 we were hoping for. But obviously the market doesn't seem to care right now. The market was expecting a bad number, and this number was still better than expected. So we'll take a quick look at where that puts us in terms of the all-time kind of numbers. And 2.4 kind of puts us slightly higher than the 2.3 number we just got, but still right on this long-term target of 2%. It's so funny that they say, oh, we're still above the 2% target. You draw a line at 2%, it like pretty much looks like we're touching it. Yes, there is a gap, but I also often stress on this channel, we're not just going to come down here and stick to the line, right? We'll continue to do what we've done throughout history and continue to chop around here. So relatively speaking, I think we're in a great place there. Good numbers, market seems happy. So all in all, it seems like we kind of dodged a bullet there. I was expecting numbers to put us in the 1.8s, 1.9s. Didn't get that, but the market obviously is still happy where these numbers came out, which is always a good sign. Apex happening right now. A lot of great clips coming out of that. I want to see if I can find any good clips to show you. I was watching some of the keynotes last night. Flip through a couple of those real quick, but looks like Apex is going really well. Take a look at this.
I think as a community, I mean that broadly, across Singapore, across Southeast Asia, you have a community of entrepreneurs. Like the energy that I feel being here, I mean, it's I think profound. And so I think this will continue to be a region that thrives and leads, and I think you'll see more and more faster adoption, partly as you see the US as a regulatory leader, that a lot of other countries look to the US. I think people grossly underrated how much momentum is going to be created by the largest economy in the world finally shifting into a pro-innovation, pro-crypto posture.
Great quick little note by Brad Garlinghouse. Let's see if I can find something longer there. There's a lot of great notes. Oh, here's David's section. Let's check this out.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. It is so great to be here in Amsterdam again. City that's so bike friendly. Even your canals have bicycle lanes. Amazing. Okay, maybe I made that up. So this is, I think, the fourth Apex where I come on, I talk about where we are, how we got here, where we think we should be going. We will not break with tradition. I'm going to do that again this year. But I just want to start by telling you why I'm so much more excited now than I have been before. First of all, it's because, this crowd, just the number of people, these events always energize me. But also, I'm an old guy. I lived through the internet revolution. In the late 80s, early 90s, I kind of felt like I was the only person who knew the internet existed, or what became the internet existed. The technology was nascent, and internet culture was a bunch of nerds, in some garage somewhere, and then there was popular culture. Today, internet culture and popular culture are the same thing, right? There is no distinction between internet culture and popular culture. We're starting to see that happen with blockchain right now. We're starting to see that turn, whether it's blockchain politics becoming an issue in the election in the United States, whether it's the Bitcoin ETFs and the ETFs launching, stable coins, institutional projects that are enabling DeFi ecosystems on the blockchain. We're starting to see that path to mass adoption really happen. We're not the only people who know about blockchain anymore, right? It used to be that the only people who knew about blockchain or cared about, crypto were the people who were in the space. But there's people in the finance space now, people in computer science. They all understand what's happening here. And that's exactly what led to mass adoption with the internet. So let's talk about where the XRP ledger has gone in the past, almost 12 years now? It is fully decentralized. There's more than 600 nodes processing transactions and maintaining the ledger. And importantly, each of those nodes enforces all of the system rules. And unlike on most other blockchains, those nodes are enforcing censorship resistance as well. There's more than 120 validators. We're probably the only major blockchain with no in-protocol incentives for block production or running a validator. People run validators because they want the network to work. They want the network to be robust. They want the network to be reliable and decentralized. They're run by individuals, businesses, universities. There's over 1,750 apps, exchanges on mainnet built by a diverse set of global developers, many of whom in the room with us today. More than 2.8 billion transactions have been processed. For some time, more than 50% of transactions being processed on public blockchains were on the XRP ledger. It's gone down a lot since then because the rest of the universe has grown. But the XRP ledger has continued to process transactions at that high rate. No transaction has ever been discriminated against, filtered, censored, misexecuted, dropped, mishandled, right? It is a fair system because every single node on the network enforces that type of fairness. There's more than 5 million active XRP wallet holders around the world, and that's a real number. On a lot of other blockchains, for example, on UTXO-based blockchains like Bitcoin, a single user probably has a number of addresses. And so the address numbers may be very, very large, but those addresses don't actually reflect users, right? So those 5 million are probably real people who are using the XRP ledger, and they're using the ledger directly, right? There's a lot of people who hold Bitcoin, hold Ether, who will never use those blockchains directly. These are people who are actually potential customers for projects built on the XRP ledger because they have access to the ledger. They have their money on chain.
Interesting. I've never heard
Market
that.
capitalization of XRP is in excess of $30 billion. Makes it about the 6th largest cryptocurrency, depending on exactly what you consider to be a cryptocurrency. The number of contributors building projects of different types on the XRP ledger is enormous. As you can see on the slide, we have a large group of companies that are building wallets, custody, compliance, and security. These are tools that enable people to hold XRP, use the XRP ledger, participate in the ecosystem. Infrastructure, tools, and analytics companies. There's a lot of stuff going on the XRP ledger. The transaction rate is high. If you can't understand what's going on, you can't even really think about as real money. In the early days of Bitcoin, we jokingly said, well, I have my bank account and then I have this magic internet money, right? It is great to be able to be in a position where you can do that. But realistically, if we're trying to adopt to most of the world, it's going to have to be the money that they get paid at their job. It's going to have to be the money they use to pay their rent. It's going to have to be the money that they use to buy groceries because that's the money they have. They don't have a giant pile of money to mess around with this cool new technology. And so we have to connect. If we don't connect, we will not be able.
That's so funny. Guys, I am so sorry. That's so funny. I had no idea. It was the most recent Apex video that showed up, and I figured it was 2025. Sorry about that. That's a tough L on my part. That was 2024. Good morning. And jeez. Whoever called that out. All right, we'll go for shorter clips then. That if Classic X posting that right up with all the other clips from Vegas. All right, well, we'll supplement that with something a little more exciting, which is something that just came across my feed. 5 years. Take a look at this. This is Brad Garlinghouse talking about XRP. Swift, how much of Swift volume XRP can take. I haven't seen this yet, so curious what he's going to say here. 5 years. 5 years, yeah. So, I mean,
It's for a dumb reason.
Swift today, there's two ways to think about Swift. There's the messaging and there's liquidity. Right. Liquidity is owned by the banks. Right. I think less about the messaging and more about liquidity. Because if you're driving all the liquidity, that's good for XRP. Right. Anyway, so I'll say 5 years. 14%. In 5 years. 5 years, yeah. So, I mean.
Very cool. I'm yet to see that clip, but Brad Garlinghouse puts a prediction out there for 5 years, 14% of Swift. That's very good. And also still funny that I played Apex 2024 on the screen for 10 minutes before realizing that it was 2024. So that will get dropped into the get dropped into the L category. Other people are reposting this too. Oh my god. Goes to show, always double check what you see. Maybe I'll just go to the official CoinDesk one. I was watching this last night. I just didn't want to flip through it, but
This is approved. Where we're looking to build.
For over a decade.
Oh, go figure. David's wearing the same exact thing that he wore in 2024. Of course he is. All right, here's the Brad and Monica one coming up. This one was really good. Not to skip over Hugo, but the Brad and Monica one I enjoyed a lot. So I want to go straight to that. Oh, here we go.
And Monica. Wrap the show with today, Marcus. Thanks so much for joining me at the desk.
Thank you for having me.
That was Ripple X Senior Vice President Marcus Infanger. All right, that is a wrap for me today. I am Jen Sanasi. I'm going to be back at the desk tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Singapore time, bringing you the best from Apex 2025. We are going to head out now and take a look at what's being talked about on the XRP Ledger stage. We will see you tomorrow.
I think if you guys were celebs,
there's an interesting play that you could have here, maybe Branica or Moneybrad. I don't know whichever ones that work for you.
Oh, that's a new one. I haven't heard that. That's good.
No, yeah.
I don't think it's going to catch on either.
Yeah, probably not.
But okay, so you've both been at Ripple now for a little while, over a decade, and Monica, just very briefly, what made you join Ripple all those years ago in 2013?
So it was one of the co-founders, Chris Larsen, who's our esteemed executive chairman of our board. Chris, I'd known Chris from his prior life as founder CEO of Prosper. Chris is a serial fintech entrepreneur. He founded eLoan in the 90s and then Prosper in the early noughts, and then Ripple. And he is one of those people, I think you can attest, like he's a real visionary. He sees, like, you know, in decades far out timelines of where the world is headed. I just remember at that time, I was catching up with him in the summer of 2013, and he was just so excited. He was like on fire about the digital gold revolution with Bitcoin, and so excited about XRP Ledger being this whole new payment system for the world. And that was what he was talking about, Internet of Value, things that the whole industry has talked about now, but he was talking about that way back then. So it was really, he inspired me to join.
Little thing real quick. It's so amazing to see how Chris Larsen had this vision of the Internet of Value in 2014. And now that's materializing. It shows how ahead of the game someone like Chris Larsen really is. I mean, it's one thing for us to all understand the vision of XRP today, but for him to envision that vision 11 years ago is insane.
Fantastic. And for you, 2 years, a few years afterwards, you joined?
Yeah, I joined because Monica was there.
Not true.
Exactly. Look, it's kind of a funny story. I had been introduced to Bitcoin in 2012, and I invested a little bit in Bitcoin, but I always had this, and this is not an anti-Bitcoin statement. I'm pro-Bitcoin. I'm nervous every time I say anything that people are going to be like, oh, Brad's anti-Bitcoin. I'm not. But I remember thinking like that maybe the Achilles heel to Bitcoin might end up being this very anti-bank, anti-government. And I still to this day kind of, like, we're not going to have a completely separate parallel system. There's going to be lots of bridges between traditional finance and what we now call decentralized finance. And when I was recruited, and I got a recruiting call about Ripple, and I remember the recruiter called and he's like, have you heard of Ripple? I lied, and I said yes. And I was like, but remind me what they do. And actually, I mean, and Monica may remember this, he was describing a payments company, and I said, look, I'm not a payments guy. I gave them names of people I knew at PayPal and Visa and trying to like push it off to somebody else. And the recruiter kind of made fun of me because I wasn't working at the time. And he's like, what else are you doing? Like, just come in and meet with Chris. And I agree with Monica. I mean, Chris is one of these guys who just sees around corners. And like, we all have our own superpowers. And I think one of the things that has worked so well is the partnership between Chris and me and Monica, and that Chris sees around corners and we figure out, like, okay, how do we get there? And his vision has been incredibly consistent around this Internet of Value. And I think we still underestimate how significant a shift in how the world works that can and will be. And I think it's going to create a lot of tailwinds for the industry and for Ripple and for XRP.
I have two fun stories to add about that time. You did have a job.
I was an Uber driver.
You were an Uber driver.
That's true.
He was testing some markets with his other friends, potentially and exploring entrepreneurial opportunities. I remember that distinctly. And then two, Ashish Birla, who was our head of product for a very long time, GM of RippleNet, but he and I both were really excited to meet Brad and hopeful that he would come on board to Ripple. His fame from Yahoo was the Peanut Butter Manifesto. This concept of, like, you know, Yahoo lost its edge through lack of focus, and Ashish and I were feeling that of XRP Ledger was this magnificent invention, and it was like a hammer looking for a nail. And so we really needed someone, a leader, to kind of drive focus within the business and, like, you know, focus until we could, you know, build product market fit.
And here we are.
I was going to say, this is fascinating. It really is. I don't
think you knew
So I know that was one of the best parts of the talk right there. Just wanted to share that with you. That kind of start of what Ripple even wants. Like, it's so interesting to hear the story of when Brad got involved. They went on and kind of did this underrated, overrated game, which was I don't know, good. But nothing like overly interesting. I kind of watched the entire thing. That was my favorite part, honestly, just hearing how Brad and Monica got involved. Looks like Ondo is bringing more real world assets to the XRP ledger. Just saw that post come in. So cool to see Ondo continuing to build on the XRP ledger. Great to see. I don't know if yeah, so they're so this is just an integration post. So Ondo posting integrations with the XRP ledger. Our flagship short-term USD Treasury fund, OUSG, is now live on the XRP ledger. Very interesting to see. I think this is more of going to be an institutional use case, to be completely honest, and more of an institutional infrastructure kind of thing, but still great to see that innovation coming in. So Ondo just came in on the XRP ledger, really building out that DeFi ecosystem for the XRP ledger that is growing rapidly, very rapidly. The amount of DeFi infrastructure getting built and being brought to the XRP ledger. That's fantastic. That's one of the biggest things the XRP ledger was lacking for a while, was other projects coming here. And now it's like a tidal wave of projects coming over. It seems like that is totally got changed up and in a very quick way. So shout out to all the projects coming to the XRP ledger. Super exciting stuff. See what else we got going on here. Want to make sure we're not missing out on anything. A lot of Apex clips, which is going to be super exciting to see what comes out of Apex today. Last night was sort of just that first night. It seemed like a lot of discussions going on. Nothing, I think, overly nothing overly earth-shattering as of now, but Apex isn't really, it's a developer event, right? So more focused on stuff like this. Just looking around, seeing what else we have. Guys, make sure to smash the like button. Really appreciate you guys for being here this morning. Obviously, we started off with the CPI numbers, which came in pretty good. Not as good as I wanted them, but still very good. Then kind of went into some Apex stuff and just going through and seeing sort of what's being posted on there. There's a lot of great speakers. I think this is another it's like Ripple X is posting a take a look at this one real quick. I wish Ripple X had longer clips of David Schwartz and Jazzy Cooper's segment. I love listening to Jazzy Cooper talk. She's someone I think who's heavily underrated right now.
The momentum is real. This shows how the XRP ledger has scaled for more than 13 years. 3.3 billion transactions processed, more than 6 million active wallets, secured by more than 800 nodes, more than 180 independent validators. This is a proven track record of reliability and decentralization.
XRPL has finally broken into the top 10 chains for real-world assets, with nearly 120 million RWAs live on-chain today. These aren't experiments. They're live, regulated financial products on the blockchain, and the pipeline ahead continues to be strong.
Very cool. I didn't even know. I've never quantified that before. The XRP ledger now a top 10 for tokenized assets, and I think that's a key word right there. In that it's not just
for the developer.
It's not just, oh, here's a project that people might potentially use. Like, these are regulated real world products. So let me see if I can get. I want to get David and Jazzy's entire sort of thing here.
Now,
But
looking at this thing,
I'm having a hard time finding the actual clip of their entire. Oh, here we go. This is what I was looking for.
Change. What can you do with the Bitcoin blockchain? You can hold and transfer Bitcoin. That's useful, but that's
MPTs.
This is not. Hey everyone. Super excited to be here. The 5th year of Apex. 5th year Ripple's done it. 5th year I've done it. Welcome to everyone, developers, investors, students, entrepreneurs, representatives of institutions. Everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Super excited to be here. I've shown this slide at every single Apex. Shows that the XRP ledger, the growth is real. It shows a shift and scale over more than 13 years. 3.3 billion transactions processed. 6 million plus active wallets, secured by more than 800 nodes and more than 180 independent validators. So proven track record of reliability and decentralization. But this is not, sorry. I'm so sorry. I switched slides too early. I apologize. So this is a shift that we're seeing. Institutions are moving from pilots into production. Yesterday, we had the announcement of digital commercial paper live on XRPL. Real assets are coming on chain. Commercial paper, treasuries, money market funds, stable coins. All of these things are happening today on the XRP ledger. And this isn't box checking. This isn't another DeFi fad. This is a massive, massive opportunity. These institutions are adopting layer 1 blockchains because they see the advantages of the decentralization and the governance. These institutions will be innovation accelerators. They don't own the XRP ledger. They don't want to run the XRP ledger. They want to participate on an open blockchain. The trustworthy infrastructure brings more building blocks to more developers. The best example of this that we can all see clearly is stablecoins. There is not a more institutional product than stablecoins in existence. They're launched by institutions. Their direct customers are institutions. But we've seen billions of dollars of DeFi impact from these stablecoins. These stablecoins are used for collateral, for payment, for loans, in trustless ecosystems on public layer 1s. Institutional products provide the tools for developers to build on top. And the XRP ledger is evolving to support these real institutional financial use cases without losing its core values. The whole point is to provide tools that will enable the next wave of retail mass adoption DeFi. Joining me on stage is Jazzy Cooper, RippleX's head of product, driving our institutional DeFi vision. Jazzy?
Thanks, David. It's true, we're at a turning point. Public chains were once seen as too risky for institutions, and now it's too risky for institutions not to integrate them with their business. Institutions have truly embraced blockchain and are finally launching real products on public chains, including the XRP ledger. And XRPL is evolving to meet that demand. Over the past year, a number of key features have gone live, ranging from the automated market maker to decentralized identity, price oracles, and clawback. And we have others that are still in voting: credentials, MPTs, permission domains. These features are foundational infrastructure for building secure, transparent, and scalable financial products. And we're not just modernizing finance, we're making it more inclusive, accessible, and programmable. And we're finally seeing real traction. XRPL is supporting real-world applications ranging from payments to yield generation, all decentralized and at scale. Let's take a look at what this growth looks like on-chain. David?
I've shown this slide at every Apex, twice at this one, apparently. But the momentum is real. This shows how the XRP ledger has scaled for more than 13 years. 3.3 billion transactions processed, more than 6 million active wallets, secured by more than 800 nodes, more than 180 independent validators. This is a proven track record of reliability and decentralization. But I think you'll notice there's one thing on there that hasn't been on there before. There's something new on this slide, Jazzy.
Institutional adoption. It's here and now measurable on-chain. XRPL has finally broken into the top 10 chains for real-world assets, with nearly 120 million RWAs live on-chain today. Some examples include money market funds issued by Archax, treasuries issued by Open Eden, and now DCP by Guggenheim, the first digital commercial paper on the XRPL. Stablecoins as well. There's RLUSD by Ripple, USDB issued by Braza Bank, as well as legacy tokens like USD GateHub and USD Bitstamp. These aren't experiments. They're live, regulated financial products on the blockchain, and the pipeline ahead continues to be strong. DLD, the Dubai Land Authority, issuing their trust, Ondo's OUSG token, SocGen's Euro stablecoin. So now we'll take a look at why the XRPL. What makes it uniquely suited for these financial applications?
You know, I hear that a lot. What makes the XRP ledger different? What is the XRP ledger's purpose? Well, it was built for a purpose. Many blockchains were built for different purposes. Bitcoin, the first blockchain, designed to be digital scarcity, a store of value, a means of exchange. What can you do with the Bitcoin blockchain? You can hold and transfer Bitcoin. That's useful, but that's about all it does. Ethereum went completely in the opposite direction with smart contracts and open-ended programmability. It kind of made an app store approach for blockchain where you can build and launch your own applications from the ground up on the blockchain. The XRP ledger carves a niche in the middle. It was designed in 2012 specifically for financial applications, focusing first on payments. The architecture prioritizes speed and reliability, low-cost transactions and predictable transaction costs, and seamless enterprise-grade integration. It wasn't trying to do everything, but it was focused on targeting real-world financial use cases exceptionally well. So what are those real-world financial use cases? Well, it built that core set of financial functions like issuing assets, sending and receiving payments, trading via DEX, credit origination, all at the protocol level. So there was no need for added layers, no need for developing smart contracts, none of the risks or costs associated with smart contracts. With fewer moving parts, fewer risks, and better performance, it was easier for developers. What did that look like? Finality of around 4 or 5 seconds. Fees way under a penny and predictable. And no protocol level breaches in more than 10 years. But beyond speed, the tools were significant as well. Built-in compliance tools like issuer controls, transfer restrictions, native aggregated liquidity through order books and now the AMM, growing cross-chain interoperability. Bottom line, institutions and retail developers get production-grade financial infrastructure, ready to integrate with simple APIs. They don't have to rebuild the stack.
To support institutional DeFi on the XRP ledger, we're drilling into 4 primary verticals where we're looking to build.
For over a decade, Ripple.
Okay, I guess they're gonna hit us with a commercial in the middle of that. Guys, that said, I've got to jump. Kind of just a refresher this morning, see what's going on, try to get some of the best moments from there. Guys, thank you so much for coming. Make sure to check out Genesee Nutrition. I don't get, they're not paying to promote on the channel at all. I get like a small cut of some of the stuff they distribute, but guys, make sure to check them out. Will's a great guy, met him in Vegas. member of the XRP community and doing a lot of cool stuff on the interview side. So guys, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate you guys so much.